Continue this series, I want to address something that has become very clear to me. Since these videos started, I've heard a lot about resolution, counsel, and elder involvement. What I haven't seen is urgency. Deacon called me after episode 1, and within minutes, Elder Jediah was able to reach out. Brother Hassad previously told me he was working on a plan, wanted to bring my father into a counseling discussion, and wanted to talk about what accountability and support would look like moving forward. But once I continued telling my story, all of that seemed to disappear. And that's what I find interesting, because where was this urgency before the videos, when I was asking for help? Where was the urgency when I was struggling financially? Where was the urgency when I told people I was at risk of losing housing? Where was the urgency when our daughter was going weeks without contact from her father? Nobody seems interested in discussing those things. Nobody is asking, do you have enough for rent, diapers, how's the baby doing, what would accountability actually look like? Instead, the focus seems to be on stopping the conversation. Deacon agreed in front of me and my parents to provide $1,000 per month in support. That happened once, and then it stopped. Hassad also assured me certain commitments would be honored. They weren't. Leviticus 19:11 says, "Ye shall not steal, neither deal falsely." So my question is simple. Who's holding Deacon accountable? Who's holding him accountable as a husband, as a father, as a leader? Because from where I'm standing, it appears many people are hoping this will simply blow over, people will move on, and Deacon will eventually return online as if none of this ever happened. My issue has never been
I am quite sure that's what people are hoping. Mainly, that's what the brothers are hoping. Shalom. Welcome to my channel. I have not made a video in a while. I have been trying to figure out how to do this live streaming, and hopefully I got it right. It's still not, I'm still not understanding it, but I think I'm doing it right. I'm gonna try to test it right now before I continue with this video, so bear with me. But I want to make sure you guys can hear me. Am I heard? Testing 1 2. Am I heard? Oh, this is stressful. Okay, it's working. Um, but yes, I am not a part, so I want to get some ground points laid out before I start this review. I was debating whether or not I want to do this. I did because to me it is extremely important. I know sisters go through this a lot. She's not the only sister. I commend her for being a sister who spoke up. There are other sisters that spoke up after their relationships on YouTube, which I seen when I first came in this way of life. Um, but right now, this is the most relevant and probably the hugest speak up that I've seen. Nonetheless, there's different communities within the Hebrew Israelites. I'm not part of this community. However, within my community, what I've heard from sisters, they have been going through the same thing from decade to decade, from decade. Like, this is not new that the brothers mistreat their wives. However, it being swept under the rug also is not new. It seems to be a continuous cycle of a continuous cycle of people being mistreated when it comes to women, whether that's the cattiness between the sisters or the mistreatment from the husbands towards the sisters. And no one seems to feel like it's important to address because, unfortunately, which I will say is not backed by scripture if you really know scripture, but unfortunately, it is a misogynist community. Nonetheless, let's see what the sister have to say. She have many videos. I did not watch this one yet, so y'all catching my live reaction, but I have watched 1 through 5 so far of her experience. Unfortunately, she went through this, and also what was shocking to me, it was her father. So even going through the proper steps of meeting a man through your father approving, like what? It was her father who introduced her to this person, and he treated her like trash. But anyways, let's get to it.
That I'm a bitter woman. My issue is that I was manipulated, mistreated, financially harmed, and a child was brought into this situation who is now largely being ignored. Resolution is not a call after a video is released. Resolution is accountability, resolution is action, and resolution is changed behavior. And if we're being honest, I have yet to see much of that from Deacon, Hassad, or the elders he claims to be accountable to. To my knowledge, Deacon has not publicly addressed his alcoholism, sought real therapy, attended AA, made meaningful restitution, or demonstrated any sustained changes in his behavior. Most importantly, I have not seen meaningful change in his role as a father. The same concerns that existed before these videos are the same concerns that exist today. That is why words alone are no longer enough for me. Through all of this, I want to make one thing clear. My faith in Yahweh has not been shaken. If anything, it has grown stronger. Men can fail, leaders can fail, teachers can fail, but Yahweh does not fail. Throughout this entire process, He has sustained me.
Now I do want to commend her for that. Um, I have seen sisters. I have came across sisters, just in random, who say they would never deal with this way of life because of the brothers. Like, who are you worshiping? The Most High or man? And that's the problem now. Like, too many people in this way of life is worshiping man, whether it's leaders or their husbands, or the fact that they want to feel a part of a community with the brotherhood, that they're missing the whole point to like follow the commandments so we can get out of this captivity. Nonetheless, like I was thinking it, like I'm glad this sister. I kind of had an idea that if she's coming out doing all this, she wasn't planning to leave. But there are many situations where I've only been in this way of life since 2020, but the stories go around. Many situations where I've heard that people go through something and then they leave this way of life. Like the, you're gonna ignore God because you had a bad experience with a person.
Protected my daughter and given me the strength to continue speaking even when it would have been easier to stay silent. Lastly, I've seen many people asking how they can support me. Please do not send me money. I'm not asking for donations, Cash App payments, or GoFundMes. The public should not have to carry another man's responsibility. The best way to support me is by subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing the videos so this story does not quietly disappear. I didn't come here for handouts. I came here to tell the truth. I came here because I don't believe what happened should be hidden. I came here because I don't want people manipulated by the same patterns I experienced. I read the comments, I see the messages. I'm not ignoring anyone. My email is available for those who want to reach out personally, and once the series is complete, I'll be open to interviews, live streams, and answering questions. For now, my focus is finishing the story. Thank you to everyone who has listened, supported, shared, and shown kindness to me and my daughter. Yeah. Stay through a lot.
So what she do is do the intro and then put out her music and then start with her story. It's kind of cool. She actually is a dope artist. Um, my only thing when I've like been seeing these is like, even though she's staying in this way of life prayerfully, like I say, the brothers do the same thing. Well, not the same thing. I'm not saying the sister is doing that, but a lot of people take on this way of life for clout, and a part of me just a little tiny little mustard seed part of me feel like I hope she's not transferring, because within the relationship she was in, it was a popular, they were like known within their community. So I was hoping, I am hoping she's not transferring the clout that she was getting with her own channel, starting with exposing him. I doubt it. And even if that is just a teeny part of it, if her main goal is to reach out to other sisters and make sure they do not go down the same path as she has, that's still important. Again, this is not nothing new. Like, sisters are still in relationships where they are being abused, whether that's emotionally, physically, emotionally. Like, I've literally heard a sister tell me her man told her he was gonna kick her with a freaking boot. Like, I've heard other stories over and over. I've been in the community enough. I don't need to be in the community for 20 years for me to see something. Like, I'm the type of person, I catch on quick, I learn quick, I see the hypocrites, deuces, I'm out. But at the end of the day, hopefully the heart is coming from a pure place. Even though I have that thought, more than likely it has to be, you know, two can't walk together unless they agree. And the Most High is not going to keep you with a wicked person if you're not wicked. I truly believe that. Or He's not going to set you up with a wicked person if you're not wicked. But anyways, I'm going to let her song play. And for the sake of, I'm from New Orleans, we say Lil in front of anything, so that's not offense. But I'm going to let her song play. And then commentary with the review or whatever. Yeah.
Way more than I should've, but everybody got a line, and you cross mine. Let's talk about it. You crossed the line when you put your hands on me. Positive on the screen, now nothing looked the same. You crossed the line, thought I'd stay and take the blame. Positive on the screen, now nothing looked the same. So my car, you took the money. Said no words, I got you, honey. Kept hearing next week till next week. Turned into another week, added to the bank account. Nope, now I'm asking too many questions. I can't ask questions about the things you promised me. Now I'm disrespectful, contentious, rebellious, wicked. Stay quiet or speak up, still get blamed for it. I'm the pride and funny how the story changed. As soon as everything transferred into your name, I wanted answers, instead I got counsel and separations. Every promise came with excuses. Every issue got redirected. Every concern got deflected. You didn't lie, you just changed your mind. Every time I stayed through the pressure, stayed through the rants and insults, stayed through the separation, stayed trying to protect us. But every time I brought up facts, you ran from the truth. Truth is, we could have been in the booth, creating a classic, making magic. Let me stop, I'm being dramatic. Everyone already knows how tragic. You crossed the line when you put your hands on me. Positive on the screen, now nothing looked the same. You crossed the line, thought I'd stay and take the blame. Positive on the screen, now nothing looked the same. 7 weeks pregnant, door kicked open, fear hit different, reality spoken. This ain't about pride, this ain't about winning, it's about protecting what was precious inside me. You thought I'd keep shrinking and sinking, thought you would mold me, trained to fold me. You couldn't hold me to a standard you couldn't even meet. Man, you look so weak, that night changed everything. That line got crossed, now every decision I made was about the life we made. Restraining order, headed back home, south of the border, back to my loved one. Whole time you thought a baby and money would keep me trapped and wrapped bound tightly within your need for control. Whole time I was learning you became not that hard to figure out. I stayed through the disrespect longer than people know. I tried more than people know. I forget more than people know. But once that line gets crossed, you can't uncross it. hands on me. Positive on the screen. Now nothing looked the same. You crossed the line. Thought I'd stay and take the blame. Positive on the screen. Now nothing looked the same. I stayed through the lie, stayed through the fight. You crossed the line, and you put your hands on me. When that seed was planted, I realized you took me for granted. You forced me to choose. I chose our child, and because of your actions, another child, you were lost in another one.
Before I talk about my pregnancy, I need people to understand the situation I was already in when I found out I was pregnant.
All right, before we get to what she talking about, what she saying in her lyrics, I do want to point out the gaslighting. The gaslighting be so real. Oh, so real within the community. Again, like I say, I'm not a brother, so I'm not in the brotherhood, so I don't know what they go through. But amongst the sisters, they will gaslight the out of you to make you believe you don't know what you talk about. Or this is something that rung a major bell with me. Making someone believe they cannot have a relationship with the Most High without a man. Now, I have not really experienced this within my. I'm OT. I haven't experienced this within my community. When I first came into this way of life, I knew some NT brothers, um, Messianic Hebrew Israelites, and unfortunately, look, although some of our doctrine be crazy, the NT doctrine just really be all over the place. And to pay attention to some of the things that they believe in should be red flags right there. So a brother I knew was like, one, there was no queens. There was no queens in Israel. And two, women should not study or cannot study scripture on their own. Those two things right there already let me know, baby, no, you ain't it. This was before I even knew scripture. I knew you was full of crap. Like, first of all, how they gonna have a king without a queen? Second of all, and then when I did my research on it, yes, it was a lie. They may not have righteous queens, but there were queens. They were wicked. Jezebel was a queen. She was wicked. And then they have a list of them. And then can't read scripture on your own. Like, you're really trying to confine me to knowing the Most High, knowing His Word for major red flag. Because within the 6 years now that I've been through this, in this way of life, I literally see how, baby, the doctrine, the misogyny, that is totally not the Most High. The Most High is equal balance. The Most High made feminine and masculine. Man should not live alone. Like, if man should not live alone, obviously y'all needed women. Earth is feminine form. Like, it's so many things within this that is, I guess, hidden or hid for the misogyny and patriarchy, I guess. But at the end of the day, I don't believe the Most High is for how the New Age people want to believe God is a woman, and how the traditional want to believe, the patriarchy and misogyny. I think neither of those are right. I do believe in equal. God is about equal living, balanced weights. He's a just God. But script. Anyways, also, so it goes in together. These men use the scripture to manipulate. Like, child, I'm gonna just.
Because the pregnancy didn't create the problems, it exposed them. By February 2024, when I found out I was pregnant, I was already in a very bad position emotionally, financially, and mentally. The relationship was already unstable, the financial issues had already happened, the promises had already been broken, the control had already been established. And looking back now, I can see that my pregnancy didn't start in a loving, stable marriage. It started in survival mode. By January 2024, I had just learned how much my work.
Which that's usually the case. Usually when pregnancy comes, the man like, oh, got her. And that's when he wanna show out and really show himself, whether that is cheating or abuse.
Workers' compensation settlement was going to be, and something quietly shifted inside me. I already knew I couldn't give him that money. I had already sent disability payments week after week. I had already handed over savings. I had already watched my credit be used. I had already been promised things that never happened. I had already been told I would be added to the bank accounts, and by that point, I knew that if my settlement ended up in his hands, I might never financially recover. So I started preparing quietly. I didn't announce it. I didn't threaten to leave. I didn't make some dramatic statement. I just started trying to repair my credit behind the scenes because I knew I needed to be ready for whatever came next. At the same time, he had me sell my car. He framed it like it was a smart financial decision. He said it would reduce expenses, and he said I can drive the Mercedes he put in my name whenever I needed to. So I sold my car. I made about $2,000, and that money didn't stay with me. He took it too. And then after my car was gone, he started acting like I was asking to use the Mercedes too much. I remember thinking, how am I asking for it too much? You're the one who told me to sell my car. I literally don't have a vehicle anymore. So now I'm in Washington, away from my family, away from my support system, dependent on him for transportation, dependent on him financially, and still dealing with my injury. And I hadn't even found out I was pregnant yet. And at that point, we were already on a separation. And that separation came from the bank account issue. Since September, I had been asking about being added to the bank account because that was one of the original promises. From the beginning, I was told that as his wife, I was required to give him my money because he would be in charge of all the finances. In return, I would be added to the account. That was the agreement. But once
Again, nowhere in scripture. Um, so a little backstory from the other previous videos. I still suggest you guys go back and watch, but this man apparently used to be a pimp. I have heard many stories. I don't know if the stories I heard from these people, I don't think they were actually pimps in their ex life. But I've also heard many stories of the Israelite men who use women, even multiple wives. The wives are working and the man is doing nothing, like they are just the king and the prize. Look, I don't want to judge. So I'm not going to say certain things, except, sisters, no scripture. Please, it's very important. I've heard brothers tell me times is not the same. Well, times ain't the same. That's why you shouldn't have multiple wives. How about that one? Like, uh, I think it's Exodus 21:10 when they speak of the matters of daughters of Zion. So this is a scripture where you have to take context. They were saying, let me make sure this is the right Exodus. 21. Yeah. Okay, so context. They were referring to if you take on a servant as a wife, you are to treat her in a manner of, if you take another wife, her food, clothing, remnant, and her duty of marriage should not diminish. Give me more context. So let's say verse 8. If she please not her master, who shall betroth her to himself, and then shall he let her be redeemed to sell her to this strange nation. He shall have no power, seeing he had dealt deceitfully with her. And if he had betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. If he take him another wife. So after the manner of daughters. Context, that's food, clothing, and not even shelter. I think food, clothing, and shelter also diminishes what remnant means. If you want to look up what remnant means, which I should probably be in the blue, since I can't go back and edit right now. Blue letter. I don't want this video to be extremely long. 21. Okay, so remnant H 3682, meaning covering, clothing, her food, remnant. Oh, that's what I meant. So her food, her covering, in her duty of marriage. That's what I was looking for. So the duty of marriage, usually people like to say food, clothing, and shelter. But food, clothing, and duty of marriage. And duty of marriage, meaning dwelling together, sexual cohabitation, and your duty of marriage. So let's say you didn't establish a marriage, y'all have y'all routine things, you know, I don't know, you have sex 4 times, 5 times a week, unless the woman is unclean. You have other things established within your marriage, yada yada yada. You cannot all of a sudden get another wife and then change that, diminish that because you got somebody else to try to balance out. It don't work like that. Food, clothing, and your duty of marriage, what you committed to, what you vowed to, cannot diminish. You cannot exclude something because you want somebody new. Anywho, where was I? Maybe that was my point. Moving on along.
Once he had my money, everything started changing. Every time I followed up, every time I asked questions, every time I wanted clarity, every time I wanted accountability, somehow it became conflict. It got to the point where even in front of my dad and chief, he said he would add me the following week. So naturally, I followed up. And instead of following through, I started getting put on separations. Looking back, those separations felt less like discipline and more like a way to avoid answering questions. Because when you're on separation, you're not really supposed to communicate. So by January, we were already stuck in this cycle. Promise, no follow through, questions, conflict, separation, repeat. And over time, I started noticing something else. Whenever I brought up concerns I had about him, somehow the conversations would stop being about what I was saying and start becoming about everything that was supposedly wrong with me. He had actually told me before that if somebody wanted to say they had a problem,
And that's called gaslighting. I have previous videos, and this is one of the reasons why I was like, okay, I can't do this video. And it's not just being messy. Um, my whole thing, I'm trying to point out and share with people how to pinpoint demons, for lack of a better term, the term that we use in today's modern society. Um, Gaslighters, narcissists, jealous, envious, spirits, haters, people who covet, um, the list goes on. My previous videos, these are the points I'm trying to aim towards to get people to like catch on to how to spot those things. And it be the little things that we like to ignore. It be the little things that we allow people to gaslight us to believe we're tripping. No, we're not tripping. We're not. The little things like the gaslighting, pinpoint that, whether it is small or large or as small things that build up to be an explosion. If you can pinpoint it early on, you can catch it. My the last video I made, it may have came across extremely simple, like okay, what to do definitions, what is communication, what is fussing versus arguing, what is um little definitions. It may seem small, but it's important because those are the things people gaslight people on. Projection versus deflecting. To be able to know what that means and spot it, you'll be able to spot somebody who BSing you. I did have a part two. I do have a part two that I was disappointed about, and it aggravated me because my camera ran out of. It was my mic. My mic ran out of energy, so I was talking and talking and talking, and the whole while for part two, I ain't have no vocal to it. So it was just so aggravating after I it's been months, but I still have it, and hopefully I will put this out after this. But again, it's the little things. It's the little things, and I know the like true realist people is not going to be the most popular people, but people who are truly genuine at heart and on this universal shift of truth and getting back to authenticity and realness. Oh my gosh, my neighbors walk so heavy. Authenticity and realness. I'm looking to develop my tribe, so I am content with my page not being thousands of people because I do notice the larger the crowd, the more hypocritical the crowd. The smaller the crowd, the more genuine it may be. Um, and I'm okay with that. Like and share with others who are truly trying, who truly want the world to shift towards what the Most High intended His earth to be. I don't want to get too far-fetched, so let's carry on.
and he smashed his foot down on top of mine. I was able to pull away and get to the other side of the counter in the kitchen, and then I went into the bathroom. At that point, I was scared. I was pregnant. It was the middle of the night. I had no family there. I had no real support system there, and he had just forced his way into my apartment. He had driven the Mercedes there, the car that was in my name, and then he demanded that I take him back to his house. I agreed because I needed him out of my apartment and I needed possession of the vehicle. I knew if he left with that car, I would be stuck. So even in that moment, while I was scared, I was still thinking about survival. I was thinking I needed him out of here and I needed to get my vehicle back. I put my clothes on so I could go outside. When we got into the car, I was in the passenger seat and he was driving, and he kept going on, insulting me, telling me that I wanted to talk like a nigga when we were on the phone, but now that he was in my face, I didn't have anything to say. He was taunting me, saying that since I wanted to talk to him like a nigga, he was going to treat me like a nigga. We hadn't even been in the car for more than 2 minutes. At one point during his rant, I asked him, "What did I say? What did I do?" And when I asked that, he slammed on the brakes, reached over with his right hand, and punched me in the chest. The impact was hard enough that it immediately hurt. It shocked me.
Now, this is the first time she mentioned he physically abused her. I've seen that he threatened her life. He said he was going to kill her. Ooh, these niggas. He was going to kill her and her family. In one of the videos, I think it was like the first and second one. And then clearly the emotional abuse was horrible. Like, emotional abuse, people do not acknowledge that enough. But depending on how tough you are, emotional abuse can be worse. Because a punch, you may recover from that in a week with pain. But the emotional abuse, baby, that can last. That can last for years. Years. They are both horrible. Trust me, I don't play with. Especially, you know what? Let me. I don't wanna. I don't wanna say that because I've seen people the emotional abuse become. I mean, the physical abuse become deadly. So not saying they. I'm saying they both are equal. Emotional abuse is as bad as physical abuse, and unfortunately, people downplay the emotional abuse. Verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is emotional abuse. They tie it together. They downplay that because it's not physical, but they are both horrible. Anyways, this is my first time hearing that he actually put his hands on her too. Oh boy.
I remember feeling pain shoot through my chest and feeling completely caught off guard by what had just happened. I was pregnant. I was sitting in the passenger seat, and the man who was supposed to protect me had just hit me. Before I could even process it, he grabbed my shirt and started pulling me.
And she was pregnant. You know what? This be the reason why also I became, excuse my Miss English, I became deal with women who don't leave because you put me in a messed up situation. I can't. I can't. I've seen too much abuse in this. This is another reason why, baby, I'm single. I'm not taking emotional abuse, verbal abuse, damn sure not physical abuse. I can't take it. I would end up dead or in jail. I can't. And when my loved ones gone through it, I don't want to see that neither. Because I'm alright. And then women, unfortunately, we go through this thing where we have to reach our breaking point before we leave. And your friend ain't worried about no breaking point. Her breaking point was the minute you told her. Lord. And she was pregnant. And this is the leader. Trust me. Like, I don't know these people from a can of paint. I don't know these people from a can of paint. But I know for a fact she is not the only one. She is not the only one. And I, again, pray and hope that her situation coming out sheds light on a whole situation. This is not just her. This is not even just Hebrew Israelites. Look up some of the stories that these Muslim sisters go through. Christians go through. Like, this is why I don't even like religion acts. Even Jewish. I don't know too much about the Jewish community, but I know enough to know they be going through some bull crap too. Like, I don't know who, when, how God's word has been manipulated to believe that man is God. When man, you, God value women. Or light was the feminine form, and it was darkness, the masculine form. Before that, let me go ahead now before I start getting
Me towards him. I screamed for him to let me go and I pulled away. That's when I started going off, asking him what his problem was, that he had just punched me while I was pregnant and that something was seriously wrong with him, and that he needed help. He kept driving towards his house, still insulting me, still threatening me, still making me feel like I had somehow caused what just happened. He said that I was so ugly and not even his type. That's when he said he was going to pay somebody $20,000 to just get rid of me. He kept saying things to make me feel like nobody was going to protect me, nobody was going to ride for me, and like there would be no consequences for what he did to me. We were about 2 minutes away from his house and he switched up his tone. He started saying I should just call the police now if he punched me. That if I really thought he punched me, then I should just go ahead and report it because he should be in jail. I know he was saying that to try to distort my memory. He was attempting to gaslight me and make me think that what was happening was not what actually happened. He was trying to use religion as control. He kept saying he knew I was going to call the police and that I was going to run to Esau. And I kept telling him I wasn't going to. I just wanted to go home. When we got to his house, he got out of the car, but he stayed standing in the doorway so I couldn't close the door and leave. He kept belittling me. He told me I was going to be a single mother. I told him I was feeling sick, my chest hurt, and that I needed to go back home and lay down. I didn't feel good. I said I was feeling too stressed and that I can have a miscarriage because of all this stress. And then he said something I will never forget. He said he was a prophet of God and he was prophesying that I was going to have a miscarriage. I had just
I know you. I know you effing lying. He said he was away. Bruh. Ooh, child. He said he was what? He's what? What Deuteronomy? Deuteronomy Deuteronomy 18 and 22. When a prophet speaks in the name of the Most High, if the thing follow not, because clearly she had her baby, nor come to pass. Wait, I think he said he was gonna be a single mama. But anyways, he knew he was gonna leave her as a single mother anyway. But nor come to pass. That is the thing which the Most High had not spoken, but the prophet had spoken it presumptuously. Thou shalt not be afraid of him. So who knows? It ain't too late. She could still not be a single man. The Most High might bless her with a good man. But the self-proclaiming prophets these days, period, mainly I see it within Christianity. How can people be so confident in proclaiming themselves to be a prophet? None of the prophets wanted to be a prophet. That was a responsibility that they did not want. And that's how you know when someone is willingly like, I'm a prophet, that's how you know it's self-gain.
Found out I was pregnant. I was already scared and overwhelmed, and now this man is standing here after everything that just happened, telling me I was going to be a single mother and prophesying that I was going to have a miscarriage. He refused to give me the second set of keys to my own car. He would not let me shut the door and leave. He kept me there until I finally agreed to send him the tax refund. Once I agreed, he moved and he let me leave. This all happened at about 7 weeks pregnant. And I need people to really sit with that, because at that point, this was no longer just verbal, mental, or financial. This was no longer just him being controlling, rude, disrespectful, manipulative, or financially abusive. I was pregnant. I was isolated. I had no car of my own anymore. I had no family around me. I had no real support system there. And now the abuse had escalated physically while I was carrying his child. After that, I made it back to my place. I had to try to fix my door as best I could so it would at least lock and I could sleep comfortably knowing my door wasn't open all night. I was able to unscrew the lock cover and use a hammer to bend the latch back so the door would shut fully. It was locked, but if anyone pushed the door, it would open pretty easily, so I had to call the complex maintenance to fix it the next day. Anyway, that took about 10 minutes. Over that time, he kept texting me. He kept insulting me and pressuring me about the tax money, saying I was a liar for saying that I was going to send the money when he let me leave and that I was going to be a single mother. Eventually, I sent the money and I stopped responding. I was so shaken up, I was nauseous, and I was exhausted. I checked back in with my friend who had been on the phone earlier, and after talking with her, I was able to fall asleep for about 2 hours. I was running on fumes, but I still got up and went to my ultrasound appointment. This was my first time ever seeing an ultrasound of a tiny flickering heartbeat, and all the tech kept saying was how strong it was. I asked if we could listen, and she told me they don't usually allow listening, but that she would turn the sound on for just a few seconds. Hearing my baby's heartbeat for the first time at that appointment gave me a whole new wind of energy. From that point forward, I was only thinking about how I could protect the little life growing inside me. I had called my mom to check in with her because the last thing she had heard from me the night before was that he called me pressuring me about the tax money. She kept telling me not to send it, so when I talked to her again the next day, it took everything in me to bring myself to tell her that I had sent the tax money after everything he had done to me. I had to tell her I was pregnant. I had to sit there understanding my mother was heartbroken to hear this news, that not only had I been physically harmed, but that I was also pregnant by this man. and he knew it. She immediately told me she was not going to keep this from my dad and that he would be home from his out-of-town work trip the next day and that I needed to tell him what was going on. So that was the plan. I just had to lay low and make it till the next day so I could tell my dad what happened. Once my husband woke up that afternoon, he picked up right where he left off. It felt like I could not get away from him mentally or emotionally. Even after I left the house, even after I was back in my own space, I still felt trapped. I felt so anxious. I felt so sick. I was still being pulled into calls. I was still being forced to respond. I was still dealing with the pressure, the fear, and the emotional aftermath of what had just happened. During one of those calls, he put Alizar on the phone with us. Of course, he denied punching me and kicking my door. He also denied saying he was going to pay someone $20,000 to get rid of me. He said that I had threatened him, that my family had gang affiliation, and that they would be coming after him. He basically denied everything. And Alizar asked if I wanted a separation. At that point, I said no because that wasn't going to fix anything. What I really wanted was to leave the relationship. Of course, my husband laughed about that. He said we needed to be on a separation. Alizar agreed that things were too volatile for us to be around each other. Right before that call was over, my husband made a statement saying depending on which car his date wanted to take, he might be coming to pick up the Mercedes that's in my name instead of driving his G-Wagon that night. That disgusted me. I told him he was pathetic. I had no other words for how sick and twisted he was. Eventually, after he hung up, I decided I was not going to give him that car back again. The next morning, when I called my mom back, she put my dad on the line, and I told him what happened. He told me I needed to get back to California, that he was tired of finding out these things, and it was just getting worse and worse. He said he's not able to protect me being states away, and that I needed to get back to California ASAP. So imagine that conversation. I'm not just calling my parents saying I'm pregnant. I'm telling them I'm pregnant, and I'm telling them what had just happened. I'm telling them about the violence, the fear, the threats, the financial control, the car situation, the instability, everything. And of course, they urged me to come home. After everything I had been through in such a short amount of time, after the counseling calls, after my dad finally heard what was really going on.
Thankfully, she has a supportive family. I wonder how the father felt. I wonder how her father felt. Like, this is a man I introduced my daughter to. A vouch. I don't know if he introduced a vouch for him. I forgot. I would have to go back and watch it more than likely not. But either way, he vouched for this man. Like, ugh. How that felt as a father to know. I thought this man was worthy for my daughter, and this is how he treating her. Again, this is the way it's traditionally, and so many Israelites wanna act like we can live in the past. Traditionally, in the past, the parents are the ones who choose who you be with, and as a father, you chose wrong. Whew. Discernment.
After it became clear that the abuse had escalated while I was pregnant, I knew myself that I needed to get out of Washington. I was not leaving because I didn't want my marriage. I was not leaving because I wanted to be a single mother. I was not leaving because I was trying to keep him from his child. I was leaving because I was pregnant and I did not feel safe. I was leaving because I needed to get myself into a position where I had support, where I had family, where I had somewhere to go, and where I was not isolated. That is what pushed me to get help. I stopped sharing my location and I blocked him. I went to my complex to tell them what happened, that the door needed to be fixed and that I needed to break my lease. They said they needed a copy of my police report and restraining order in order to do that with no penalty. just the rent balance up to the day that I was leaving. So I went and filed a police report and got the temporary restraining order.
I'm sorry. I do want to let her speak, but I also don't want to get deemed for running the video too long. And I also got things to say. Like, this is so embarrassing. And that was one of the main reasons why I contemplated on making it. I'm a professional. I have a profession where they can look in on my socials clearly. And affiliating myself with Hebrew Israelites is not what even people in my community, like I'm for whatever reason, I don't know why, but the OT community are typically more career oriented. I have been even told not to ever say I'm a Hebrew Israelite. And I think that is shameful. Why do the good have to suffer for the bad? It's like within the Muslim community, not every Muslim is the same. Why should the terrorists have to suffer for the whole community or nation? That is not fair. So I do understand when you Google Hebrew Israelite, racial group is gonna pop up. The people who are in the streets yelling at, Caucasians is gonna pop up, yada yada yada. And that's so unfair to me because that does not represent the vast variations of Hebrew Israelites. We are all not the same. We all do not believe in crazy, bizarre doctrines. We all don't believe, the patriarchy, not patriarchy, but we all don't believe, because for the most part, they all do believe in patriarchy, but misogynism. It's just so, it's so embarrassing. It's so unfortunate. I only decided to touch on this because a whole lot of women do go through it. And not just within this community, though. You're not going to sit here and tell me Christians don't go through the same thing, where on the forefront, they're presenting themselves to be this holy man, and behind closed doors, they're living a whole different life. A lot of times behind closed doors, they're living a homosexual life. You're not going to tell me the Muslim community don't go through, in the forefront, they're presenting themselves to be this, say my prayers morning, noon, and night, which they may do, but still treat their wives like crap. Again, you can Google it. There's tons of videos of Muslim women sharing their abuse stories. So I didn't want to partake in contributing to more stereotypical, negativity towards our community. But I do want to say, this is not just about Hebrew Israelites. This is men who pretend to be righteous, or people, not just men, people, because there's tons of different scenarios. But for the case of this video, people who pretend to be righteous. For the case of this video, men who pretend to be righteous, but have zero respect for the very person who has to carry their seed for 7, 8, 9 months to bring forth their legacy. People who pretend to be righteous but don't respect the order that the Most High put in place. And that's man and woman, not brotherhood. Man and woman procreating, becoming one. The Most High never say Steve and Steve. And trust me, not only the Christian men are undercover, the Israelite men are too. And Muslim. Yes. The African Muslims, y'all are being exposed. Afghanistan Muslims, then y'all have a whole system. And others. Like, at the end of the day, me deciding to do this is about unrighteousness all around the board. Not about religion, one particular religion, one particular following. No. Women, develop your own relationship with the Most High. Become one with the Most High. So that the Most High, even when you can't discern, the Most High gonna discern for you. Trust me, I've been there many times. Even before I came in this way of life, when the Most High moved for me, He moved for me. Whether He allowed my ancestors to move on my behalf, or He moved on my behalf, or I seen it. He allowed me to see it on my behalf. Develop your own connection with the Most High, because at the end of the day, that will be your key.
Once he was served with the restraining order, he called the bank and reversed the car payment on the Mercedes that was in my name. So now I'm on a clock. The late payment is coming. Risk of repo is coming. My credit is about to take another hit. And remember, I had already sold my car because he told me to. But now, after everything that happened, he reversed the payment on the car that was in my name. So not only had I been physically and emotionally shaken, but now my credit and transportation were being threatened too. And the only reason that did not completely destroy me is because, like I said earlier, I had already started fixing my credit behind his back. I had already started preparing quietly because something in me knew I needed to be ready for anything. I reached out to a domestic violence advocate and they helped me with the rent, and they had placed me in a hotel because I was not safe in my own apartment anymore. And I need people to understand how serious that felt for me. I had already been alone in Washington, away from my family, away from my friends, and now even my apartment was not safe. The place that was supposed to be mine, the place I was supposed to be able to go to and close the door and breathe, didn't even feel like protection anymore because he had a key and he already forced his way in once. He also had my spare car key and could come take the car out of my parking space at any time. During that time, I spoke with another leader in his organization.
And this is what domestic violence has been so close to me, not personally, but through women in my family and life, neighbors. Okay. I'm gonna come back.
Captain Tazama was my friend's husband and third in command at the time. And even though talking to him helped me put things into perspective, in reality, what I got was more protection of the system instead of actual support. I was advised not to go through with the permanent restraining order. I was told not to go to court, not to talk to detectives, not to cooperate with anything. I was told that we are not supposed to deal with our enemies, meaning the police and the court system, and that these matters should be handled internally. Basically, I was told to be alone, enjoy my pregnancy, move on, and don't pursue anything further. But nobody was really addressing the fact that I had no money, no resources, no stability, no car, no support system in Washington, and that I had just been physically abused while pregnant. At the time, I listened. I decided that because I was leaving the state anyways, I didn't need to pursue a permanent restraining order. And I want to be honest about my mindset at that time. I wasn't trying to keep him away from our child. I wasn't thinking I'm going to disappear and never let him be involved. I was thinking I need to be safe during this pregnancy. I need distance. I need support. I need to get out of this environment. And I want to address something I've been seeing in the comments. A lot of people keep saying I should have stayed, that I should have endured, that I should have worked things out with my husband, that I gave up too easily. But if you have actually listened to this series from the beginning, I hope you can see that is not what happened. By this point, I had already stayed through the financial issues. I stayed through the broken promises. I stayed through the bank account situation. I stayed through the separation. I stayed through the verbal abuse. I stayed through the intimidation. I stayed through being isolated from my family and my support system. I stayed through being told to be more quiet, more submissive, more understanding, more patient, more respectful. I stayed through all of that. So once it came time to leave, my dad flew to Washington. I picked him up from the airport, packed what I could in the trunk in the back seat of the Mercedes, and we hit the road. It took us a whole day to get back to California. At that time, I was around 9 weeks pregnant. The day after I got back, my aunt helped me get another car immediately before my credit would take a hit. That part matters to me because I don't want this story told like I was just blindly going along with everything. I was scared, yes. I was controlled, yes. I was manipulated, yes. I was in a very vulnerable position, yes. But I was also trying to think ahead. I was trying to survive. I was trying to make moves quietly because I knew I could not rely on him. So when people say I should have stayed and tried harder, what they are missing is that I did stay. I did try, repeatedly, in many ways. This entire series is a story of how long I kept trying before I finally accepted that trying by yourself cannot fix a situation the other person refuses to change. I did not walk away at the first problem. I did not walk away at the 10th problem. And I definitely did not go public before exhausting every private option I could think of. At that point, in March, I had no contact with him. I was back in California. I was trying to stabilize myself. I was trying to process what happened. I was trying to get through the first trimester. I was trying to protect my peace and protect my baby.
After watching all the folks in these videos, I don't know if I'm on planet Earth anymore. At this point, I'm just waiting for the men in black to come and zap me.
Mama, Brooklyn about to eat that food. Look.
Never. Mama.
Look glad.
I was trying to find my neighbor with her family be comforted. She left behind a daughter. Her daughter now has one for sure, I think two children, but a situation where I wish she would have just mentioned anything, or somebody would have mentioned anything of the severity of what was going on, and I could have let her borrow my protective piece. But yeah, my mother left an abusive relationship with my father. I had a sister-in-law who left the abusive relationship with my brother. And in both situations, I felt like, with my mom, I felt like I would have left way sooner. Like, you stay for the kids. That didn't help us out. That only allowed us to see and build that trait. My sister-in-law, I've even told her, baby, what? I ain't gonna tell y'all what I told her, but just know I don't play. And my neighbor unfortunately lost her life. I don't take abuse lightly at all. Those are physical. Even I've seen emotional, verbal abuse that shouldn't be taken lightly. The mind could kill you. You can be physically sick, physically put in the hospital from the stress of someone else. And people wonder why I'm so cautious of how I pick my husband, or how I allow my husband to pick me, should I say. New Orleans woman kidnapped, killed. Just reminded me I can't be saying that word. Unfortunately, the word want to be so fake. Kidnapped, unalived, and the parent murder suicide. This happened in 2012. I clearly can't see it. Whatever. But yes, Jamie Williams. Anyways, as she mentioned, her life was threatened. I just discovered she was actually physically abused on top of the emotional abuse. I commend the sister for sharing her story. Hopefully, this gives other sisters in similar situations the courage to leave. Is that ideal? No. But do the Most High condone men abusing his gift to them? We are y'all's gifts. We are y'all's gifts. So you get a gift and you abuse it. That's not the answer. So maybe being preserved and having standards will be a wake-up call. Will help sift the phonies, hypocrites from the actual righteous. And if that means at the end of the day, 7-1, that 7-1 will be worth an unrighteous man, compared to an unrighteous man. These are the ages of truth, the ever of truth. whoever will watch this, whatever your culture is, your faith is, your following is, you can relate to mistreatment of the woman, and you can relate to how this needs to end. After watching that, I thought I would have more to break down, but I think I'm a little bit too emotional. So I'm just in this and maybe come back another time on a different review. And I just hope that, again, this sister is opening doors to the courage of other people in these situations. Because I cannot share what I know about sisters because they are still in these marriages. They did not give me permission to share. But I do know sisters are going through it. So it's not just her. But I commend her for her courage to being strong enough to sharing her truth and giving someone else the strength to walk away from what's ungodly. Because it's ungodly. It's not godly.